Excellent, guys. Welcome along to week 3 in the digital marketing course. Hope everyone's had a great week and been observing some cool digital stuff in the online space. Certainly we've had a lot of things going on under the I Get Digital hashtag, where people have been sharing great examples of digital marketing, I suppose, and also asking a few questions, which we'll address a few of those tonight. And later on tonight, after the live sessions or the presentations finished, we'll be following Twitter mainly, and Alicia will be available as well to talk about any questions that you might have around digital strategy, customers or tools as well. Tonight in the session with us, we've got James Lloyd, who's going to talk about SEO and SEM and a little bit more when we get closer to that. Also monitoring the Twitter feed for us, we've got Alicia Booth, who was our guest speaker last week, and we've all really enjoyed the conversations that have been had, the great shares that people have made, the favoriting of different people's ideas and concepts and questions around digital marketing. So we're going to take that another step further tonight with the Twitter session extending after the slideshow, essentially up till about 9 o'clock our time tonight. So feel free to do that. If you're listening to this post the live session, then jump onto your Hootsuite application or Twitter or Social Sprout, anything you might be using to monitor social media, and put in the I Get Digital hashtag and search on that, and you'll get the stream of kind of consciousness that's coming along with those things as well. So that's excellent. Let me just start skipping through a few slides here and bring us up to where we need to be this week, and that will be that one there. So the I Get Digital hashtag's working along. Down the bottom of that page you can see James's handle on Twitter, which is the Brijid group. Alicia's Twitter handle also, she's got a couple of them, and mine at the end. So feel free to use those if you want to fire a question directly at us, or we can capture you on our searches for I Get Digital also. Dive into that, anything is going on there, and we've got a couple of questions we're going to answer to start that off as well. As mentioned in previous weeks, and this is just a reminder that this is a kind of a toe in the water or an entree to our Charles Sturt University's digital marketing subject, which is called MKT 525. This subject is a normal master's degree subject, and it's running at the end of this year, so from November through to January. So if you're with Charles Sturt University, if you're with another university, if you'd like to start what we call that graduate certificate or a master's degree, then it could be a good toe in the water to do that. And you've certainly had some digital exposure, which will make this subject go much more smoothly for you, given that you've done this session as well. So congratulations for those who are online with us tonight, getting that happening. This is our schedule. We're still chipping through it. Tonight it's about digital tools. We've talked a lot about what is kind of marketing and digital marketing. We talked a lot about strategy, and we started heading into the tools last week with viral marketing. I've got a little update on that one. And tonight is the first 2 sessions on digital tools, and tonight's guest speaker is James Lloyd, and next week we've got Rich Evans from Red, who will be talking about social media as well. So look forward to those. These list of sources, again, if you haven't been watching these, please stay on top of some of these sources. If you subscribe to, for example, jeffbullis.com and Smart Insights, then they're regularly publishing some stuff which is relevant to your digital marketing plans also. Cool, so this is where we're at tonight, and James is in the room with me here in Bathurst, which is where I'm broadcasting from, and that's James's business's website there as well. I'll introduce James a little bit further in a second. Tonight we're going to talk about SEO, which is search engine optimization and search engine marketing. We're also going to talk about the different devices that people are doing more and more stuff in the digital sphere with for all sorts of reasons, and there's quite a bit happening around wearables at the moment. It's definitely the introduction stage for those guys, or for wearable devices, and we'll talk more about those as we go through. Now, advertising has been around probably closer to the dawn of time, but digital advertising is a much newer concept, and I've got a couple of great examples and a couple of poor examples to show you about that tonight, and I guess a few important points to make about how you should approach that in your plan and whether it's part of what you need to do or what you don't need to do as well. Now, we had 2 questions last week which we were unable to answer right there and right then because we ran out of time, and then B, in the Periscope situation, didn't have all the information in front of us. So one of the questions was, are Facebook and Twitter good for B2B marketing and communications? And my answer to that is, it depends who and where your target market is, because if your target market is not using either of those 2 devices, then it's really not going to be of any use as cheap or as easy as it may be for you to use those devices, going to be absolutely no impact for that as well. So if you know though that your audience is likely to be playing in that space, and the two examples which I pulled out is let's say that you're a business that's got some kind of media management system you'd like to promote. Could be a cloud-based system or some physical system as well, and you're targeting PR professionals probably in Australia. Then a quick search of PR, public relations, on Twitter brings up probably there's thousands of PR-based people in that space. So I would say in that particular case for B2B marketing, then Twitter and PR professionals and your media management system would be a nice match across that forum. Again, you have to contextualize that and make that interesting, and we'll talk about sort of content and context next week to get that kicked off. The other one, which could be a good example for Facebook, which is what the FB is there, and I think that somebody mentioned this, regional groups of people, farmers, for example, and closer to where I am in a group that I do follow is called Farm Machinery for Sale Central West. And this is kind of cool. So it's people who are involved in the agricultural sector for all sorts of reasons. And you can see the number down the bottom of that screen there is there's 4,900 members. And you know, that's not massive on a global scale, but for a particular regional space in New South Wales, if you're a promoter of, you know, oils for agricultural machinery, if you had a, you know, a new insecticide or something like that, and you could get into this space and you could get permission from the group owners to promote your item, it would be a great way to reach out to a farmer group, which is another B2B market as well. So key things there is who's your target market and what media are they using, and then developing something that can work for them as well. The second part, which we didn't really have an answer for last week, was about Periscope, which is Twitter's short video mechanism. And a great example of that is, again, if within Twitter or your social media searcher you search hashtag 12-hour holiday, a group called the Lad Bible, and so it's an English boys group kind of thing, all things that are boys and male. They were chosen as influencers, and we talked about influencers last week as well, to go on a 12-hour holiday to Ibiza, I think it was, as part of promoting London. Didn't quite get all the links in that space there, but the hashtag was 12-hour holiday. And at several points in their 12-hour holiday, they did 10-second videos, which were launched back through Twitter with the hashtag, got people to, you know, like and favorite and share and do those kind of things. And so that particular campaign has been successful for those particular guys in terms of reaching their goals. So digital marketing is happening all around us. So check that one out if you'd like to as well. Excellent. So just check up on the homework, see how you guys are going with that. Man, who needs homework in a free course? I certainly probably not as keen on that, but I wasn't good on homework at school either. Finalise your target market for this plan, and certainly through our conversations last week and your own research and kind of realisation about who your target customers are, you should have that ticked off by now. You've got a particular group with a profile. We'll look at that in a second. You should have also come up with some goals for your target market action. So what do you want your target market to do? Tweet, favorite, retweet, come to, subscribe, buy, endorse, share, all of those things might be goals for that one as well. And also you should have been able to pretty much finalise your big picture digital strategy and, you know, scoping what's in and out for your digital plan. And I've got some examples of what I would probably write on that space as well coming up. Here's Alicia again. She talked about digital marketing plans. As mentioned, she's live on Twitter tonight, answering your queries if you'd like to speak to her again. And she gave us some really cool information about how to take your analog business into the digital space, how not to put all your digital eggs in one basket, as it would be as well. So grab Alicia online and via Twitter and have a chat to her that way as we're doing this tonight as well. So just going quickly through our digital marketing template to get us back up to speed with where we are too. You will have ticked off the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. You should have material for that one. You should have also, coming out of that SWOT, which, you know, can get a bit cumbersome and a bit lengthy, some critical issues that as you go forward with your digital marketing plan, you need to fix these, otherwise you're going to get got kind of thing. So you need to protect yourself, you need to do some things, you need to make the till ring for your business, and they'll be in this list of things that are critical for you to get ahead in this particular time and space with your digital marketing plan. That was examples of our target market, so the Jane 30-something customer, and activities or smart-based goals for Jane to do, so register, win, share with closest Instagram friends. All of those things are kind of digital goals which you can enact, you can measure, and you can see what's going on as well. And this is kind of what we finished on last week. You should have enough information to write a statement, kind of like what I've written there in red at the bottom of the screen. And that's what I'm saying there is with our digital marketing plan, we, and that's your organisation, your business, however you want to capture that, are going to responsively, and these kind of words make a lot of sense, so that instead of just doing it between 9 to 5, and I've got a great story for, and hopefully there's no ANZ staff in there. I'm not sure if they do it anymore or not, but ANZ, even though they're an Asia-based bank working across a number of different time zones, they only follow up on Twitter between 9 and 4 in the afternoon on Eastern Standard, East Coast Australian time, and that's not responsively. So if you say responsibly, you've got to be on the game. You've got to have people that can do it maybe 24/7 for you as well. Meet our target market, so it's aimed at our target market with sharp, so it's pointed, it's relevant, it's contextualized, so it's something that they want to hear about. Messages on Twitter, Pinterest, and during their workday, LinkedIn. So that would just say, and the example I've got today is about advertising on LinkedIn, to drive them from awareness to interest to action for our Christmas sales period, and to create a bunch of endorsements for our brand by the end of December 2015. So there's an integration of goals, there's an integration of activities, and there's an integration of media there to say our strategy is about these things, and man, we're going to do it really well. It's going to be great for us. Perfect. So tonight we're heading down the road of tools. We talked a little bit about viral last week, and really the rest of this week and next week is about the massive and growing portfolio of tools that we've got to use to get our digital marketing plan happening and cracking. I do suggest using grids like this so you can capture what you want to do. It could certainly be a project plan if you're a bit into smartsheet.com or MS Project. Use those kind of tools to put your tools in and understand what you're doing it for as well with notes, etc. Or use a simple grid like this through a Word or a PowerPoint document that you can share to other stakeholders on your team so everybody knows what's going on. So coming out of the session tonight and next week, you really want to be able to understand what actions or tools you're going to use, what will the objective be for each one of those tools, which target market are you going after with those tools, and they should be all around one target market, but sometimes we might target people who can influence them, for example. And so the How Ridiculous thing is about targeting them, so getting them on board to make a video to target our young male 20-somethings to eat Subway. What is the timing? And there might be issues around timing for that. And certainly if you were 7-Eleven's competitor in Australia at the moment, then the timing is high for you to promote your brand last night and today and the rest of this week, as we know 7-Eleven's having some PR difficulties around that space too. Next one there is responsibility. Who's on job for doing this? Is it outsourced? Is it in-house? Have we got the right people to make it happen? And again, if you haven't got the right people or resources to make things happen, it's better to be out of your plan than doing a kind of botched up attempt to make it work. Next one is about detail and integration, and then the last column is about how can we measure our progress and how will we know where we're up to. Probably if you're doing WIP style meetings, so work in progress kind of meetings, then you would bring this sheet literally to those meetings to make that happen. And the next two we'll talk about, the next few slides we'll talk about as we head into next week, but I just put them there in the deck so you know that they're part of the discussions as we move forward. Now, the digital customer journey, we sort of got into that last week as we started on talking about viral, and there's many touch points, and through your digital media diaries or your media diaries, full stop, online and offline diaries, then you'll know there's a lot of places that if I wanted to communicate with you, I'd have to reach you during your kind of waking hours day. And so the chat continues tonight around how can we make that happen. And that's really the key point of the different things that we're doing. So one of the things that is making that happen for Subway at the moment has been the Eat Well Go hashtag. And if you did look at Twitter last week and you're in Australia, you might have seen that the Eat Well Go hashtag was actually promoted by Subway, which means that they'd paid some money to Twitter to have that at the top of the trending list, and that can drive a lot of traffic your way as well. And certainly from last week when we looked at the trick shots at the dish video clip done by the How Ridiculous influencers, then it's gone from 32 views, which was the snap I had from last Monday, to 120,000, and in fact tonight it's about 122,000 views, which for for Subway in Australia is probably a really good outcome. We discovered 5 things which we thought were good about viral, so surprising, interesting, intense, positive and actionable, and I think that the trick shots at the dish ticks all of those off to a certain level, but we know there's been other ones which are trending on YouTube at the moment, which are probably doing that much better, and they're getting millions of views. But nevertheless, for Subway in Australia, this I'd say has been a good outcome for that. I noticed that from yesterday at 120,700, it's at 122,000 today, so I'm thinking that it's flattened off a little bit in terms of that growth for that as well. So excellent. I'm going to bring you James Lloyd right now, and I'm just going to swap headsets with him in 1 second. James, as I've said, there is a bit of immediate tragic. He's right into his marketing. He has worked for a big business agency in Sydney in Australia, and then he and some friends have started up the Brijid group as well, and they're out there making digital stuff happen for their clients. So welcome to James, and I'll put you on the microphone, mate, and you can go from there.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks everybody else for having me tonight. It's great to be here. Some great content and live feed going on there. You may have just seen I had a go at the Periscope, literally just live while we were talking, and we had 7 viewers join us in a matter of a couple of seconds. Actually, that really blew me away. Yeah, just through Twitter. Amazing. Anyway, I'll jump straight into it. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking about SEO and SEM and how it applies to businesses and marketers of varying scales. So, quick recap on what we're going to do. The importance of search, zero moment of truth in search. Some of you may have heard that term thrown around before. We're going to talk about search queries, SEO versus SEM, which is obviously the fundamental part of this entire prezo. Search engine optimization, a recap on SEO and some tips. Search engine marketing, the impact of mobile, because that's just huge these days. And then where to start for everybody if you're at the beginning. So we'll jump straight into it. What we're looking at now is just a very basic search funnel I put together for the purposes of this presentation. Begins with the research phase. Obviously, this will make a bit more sense in a minute when I talk about zero moment of truth, but all search queries are started because of an intent, a curiosity, or question that users want answered, and they turn to search engines nowadays to answer that, as opposed to traditionally asking their friends, which still occurs, but with the volume of searches taking place, 3.5 billion every day on Google alone, it's clear that it certainly plays a pretty pivotal part of our lives. This then transitions into a comparative phase, and this is where it becomes important to make sure your SEO and your SEM is really going gangbusters in order to convert those customers into real business for you and real sales. So that 3.5 billion is funneling into that. An example of that would be at the beginning of the year, when I moved back to Bathurst, living in the country, you need a car to get around. I didn't need one in Sydney, so I didn't bother. Anyway, I began looking at cars in my price range. I moved into specific cars, which would be the comparative phase. Initially, the research phase was just cars. And ultimately, doing my online research, I decided on my purchase phase and acquired a car. So the importance of that is that the first search results that came up when I typed in used cars Bathurst, used cars New South Wales, ultimately those were the same websites that I ended up considering in my purchase cycle. There were other sites that obviously just come to mind without the requirement of having to search for it, but ultimately they played a huge part in that. And if you convert even 1% of the search volume going through these search terms, then that's a huge impact on businesses. So really fundamental these days to make sure you're addressing that. So this leads me on to the zero moment of truth, or ZMOT for short, which is what I'll say for the purposes of time. So ZMOT describes a revolution in the way consumers search for information online and make decisions about brands. And this was identified by Google a few years ago, and they found that people are increasingly making these decisions about brands at the zero moment, and that is the precise moment when they, the consumer, they have a need or an intent or question that they want answered online. They can't wait. Everyone's time sensitive. It's the rarest commodity in the world. They can't wait to have it answered by their parents, by their friends, so they search for it online, and they'll find that answer. The difficult part for us as businesses and marketers and brands is that these questions can quite literally be anything. So where a brand stands out and where a brand has an opportunity is when they provide the answers to these questions at just that right time. And this then results in scoring a double win. So I'm reading from the screen here, but it's really important. Not only does it help the consumer's life in that that brand then becomes a utility to them because it's facilitated an answer to a question that you know, a TV ad couldn't do exactly. But then it also stands to gain a competitive advantage over other brands that don't answer that question. So that's really important too. So it's kind of that theory where they lose one and you gain one, but ultimately you've gained two because yeah, they're minus and you're in the plus. So it's huge. The zero moment of truth, you know, it's important to think about that when you're developing your search strategies around the context of why people are searching for that, the moments they might be searching for that, and then tailoring your results to try and maximize that. So just a quick look at some search queries here, and this just really shows, I'll put this in here just to show you that people really do ask anything in search engines. This is an article I found just the other month on News Limited. Not the best media outlet, but not too bad for some crazy information. 1,000 people a month in Australia, or there's 1,000 times that people Google how to hide a dead body in Australia, which is quite alarming. 14,000 times a month people Google how to ask a guy out. So, you know, that's a really important one because not only is Google or search engines becoming a utility, but they're embedded in our grassroots of a society now that, you know, a girl going through, you know, her teenage years doesn't know how to ask a guy out. She turns to Google to find that out as opposed to her friends or her mother. So it's huge, you know, and being able to leverage that moment, not necessarily a girl trying to ask out a guy, but being able to leverage that moment for a brand is obviously monumental. And then 4,500 people Google how do I Google something, which I thought was quite funny. So we'll move right on to SEO versus SEM, and I'm sure this screen's relatively familiar to everyone. It's just a screen grab I took. I typed in low rate credit cards. I knew there was going to be a lot of competitiveness going in the market here, and took a screen grab. I did that just to highlight what SEO is versus SEM. So SEO is the organic or the natural results that the search engine deems to be the most relevant to your search term. And there's a pretty significant difference in terms of how many clicks each one of those gets in relation to everything else on the page. So that first one where info choice compare low interest rate credit cards appears, 35% or 3.5 people out of all 10 people that go through that search term will click and go through that website. Ultimately, it becomes a game of numbers and percentages once they land on the website as to how many people convert, but 35% of the market share is massive for these businesses. And then it drops down to 18% for number 2 and 11% for number 3. So even if you're appearing on the first page, the difference between number 1 and even the third is 24%. So it's massive. It's so important to make sure that you're playing ball and you're optimizing and you're really fighting for that number 1 position, because it can mean the difference between, you know, making budget that year or missing it significantly. So that's the SEO results there. And it can be a little tricky sometimes. You know, a lot of people of older generations and people that aren't too savvy with online environments, you know, they'll think that those ads are natural organic results and they'll click them, and that's another advantage of getting SEM, but SEO really is where you make the big bucks. So a couple of quick things on search engine optimizations. There was a lady in Sydney I used to work with. She was the head of the search department of our agency. She got 30 under 30 Woman of the Year last year, I think. And anyway, she was fantastic. And she always used to say, your search rankings are a privilege, not a right, which I think is just absolutely true. So many people, you know, especially small businesses that we deal with now, or that I deal with through Brijid, you know, they might be the longest running pub or XYZ in town, and they'll say, oh, you know, why aren't I appearing as the number 1? I've been here the longest, you know, we support this and that, but you know, nobody deserves to be there. They've got to earn their position. So don't make the assumption that, oh, I'm the longest one in town, I'll just appear there. You won't, because someone will beat you to it. And then search rankings are based on thousands of different factors. Don't expect the first strategy to work straight off the bat. It is, after all, in the name, search engine optimization. Not everything's going to work as well as it does for your friends. It's not going to work as well as the top 10 tips will work. But you just need to keep trying. And to that extent, it's not how hard you get hit, but how hard you get hit and get back up. A bit of a Rocky Balboa fan there, but I think it rings true in that, you know, even when you do make it to the number 1 position or the number 2 or whatever it is your goal is, it's important to note that people are going to be competing for that space as well. So they're more than likely going to knock you off for a day or a week or a month, depending on how often you optimize. But then it's how you combat that as to, you know, whether you really get the privilege of appearing there. So a couple of truths about SEO. No one really knows for sure how it works. What we do know are assumptions from information that they release, and some tried and tested proven optimizations that do positively impact your ranking. Obviously, if they release what their search algorithms were saying, then Bing or Yahoo would copy Google or vice versa, and everyone would just end up in a big search schmozzle, as if the internet isn't crazy enough already. So yeah, just keep that in mind too about SEO. It is a bit of a dark art. Like I said a second ago, what might work for you may not necessarily work for your friend's website, and vice versa. It just depends on the vertical, the competition, the industry vertical, and thousands of different factors that search engines take into consideration. So some quick tips on SEO. There's a million things you could really do, or thousands of things you could do for SEO. These are just 10 easy wins that if you address them first, then it gives you a really good base from which to build and optimize from. And the first one is do your research on keywords. I've got a link at the end of this presentation to Google Keyword Planner. It gets mixed feedback from different people, but the mixed feedback only really comes from those that use it day in and day out, and they're probably just frustrated from it. It's an amazing tool. Use it every day to help identify keywords. You can see what competitors are doing. You can see how much you can bid for SEM as well, so it's dual device there, dual purpose. But then clean, succinct, and descriptive URLs. The KISS theory here applies, and I think the KISS theory applies for most of the online environment. Like, keep it simple, stupid. If you overcomplicate things, people don't really care enough to spend the time to figure it out. So if your website is Joe Blogs Cars, and you've got used cars and new cars, make it joeblogscars.com/used cars. The search algorithm will pick up that used cars immediately and identify that entire page with used cars. If you make it best second-hand cars in all of New South Wales and Central West, then it's going to probably breeze straight over you, and that's a huge opportunity loss. So don't overcomplicate things. You own everything past the .com or the .au, and you can do with it as you will. So make sure you take advantage of that. Third one's link building. So link build the obvious is the best place to start. Social platforms. Previously, Facebook didn't have as much importance to search algorithms just because the Google-Facebook feud Google didn't want to give them the credit they deserved. Anyway, it's too big a platform now to ignore, so it does. Twitter especially. If you search for the hashtag #IGetDigital, it's all over your Google search results. So, getting your social platforms right, linking to your website's an easy win. Same thing with friends' websites. If they have a blog, we've all got friends that own businesses, blogs, all that kind of thing. Just ask them to put a link or a blog post about your page, link it through, and it's building those easy wins, and it's building your link base. And then community involvement. If you sponsor a soccer club or you're involved in a charitable organisation, local media outlets will pick that up. And when they ask you for a quote, just say, can you please link me through to your website? And things like that. It's just obvious, and it's just a question you've got to ask at the time that it occurs, and it will make a really big difference down the end, because the more links you have to your website from foreign websites, the more search engines think that you're a relevant website and a good website that it will want to show the consumer at the end. Number 4 is clean sitemaps. That's pretty self-explanatory. Having a clean website and a sitemap means that the search algorithms can easily read your pages and show you content when searched for. Number five is my favorite, and also my favorite number, and that's why I put it there. So there is no substitute for good content. At the heart of everything on the internet, it's just all about sharing content and information, and so there really is no substitute for that. If you put the time and effort into tailoring your content to your audience, so what Andrew was talking about before, making sure that you identify who your audience is and tailoring your content to them, it will naturally get picked up. You're sharing it out across your social platforms, publishing it on your website, you've got it in your direct marketing, all those things build up, and it will just get shared and sent around, and it will grow naturally then, and it really is the best way to do it in the most efficient way, I think. Optimizing your page title, so just making sure what your page title is doesn't need to be deciphered by the user visiting your website. Again, used cars, new cars, just keep it simple, KISS theory. Social media we've already covered, but making sure you're linking your posts from your social pages back to your website is really important. Meta tags is a questionable one and debated in a lot of different forums and communities these days, but I think it's one of those ones that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, in that if you don't do it, then you're probably not going to appear as high, but if you do, then certain people will probably say you're wasting your time. So I think it's better to have than have not in that instance. And then number 9, set up regular reports. You can't improve on something if you don't know there's an issue. So it's not hard to set up regular reports if you're tracking it right. Most web hosting platforms such as Wix or WordPress or any of the others, HubSpot or Hootsuite, they all have reporting templates in it, AdWords especially. You can run automated reports that get sent to your email. You don't even need to go online to download it. All you've got to do is check your numbers. If there's an issue, or if you see a significant increase or decrease, address it, figure it out, and maximize it. Or if it's it's a negative impact, then fix the problem. And you can't do that unless you're reporting at least once a month or once a quarter, depending on how important your website is to your business. The last one, number 10, I've left this to the end intentionally, is ensure your website is mobile optimized. Responsive designs are so big these days. We'll get to a little more in a minute, but 40% of all search traffic is done through the mobile now, and search engines see that as the future. It's only going to continue to grow. Desktop usage has plateaued over the last year or so, whilst mobile continues to skyrocket. And it'll only continue to do that. It's a lot cheaper to buy a phone than it is a computer, and really people can't live without their phones. They can live without their computer. So making sure your website's mobile optimized is extremely important these days for websites. So going back here to SEM, the SEM is all the ads that appear with a little yellow ad around it. You can see there the top one, it'll get varying results, so don't take this as gospel, but on average, in my experience, it'll get about a 2% click-through rate. So that's 2% of all ads that appear there will get click-through. But having said that, don't take click-through rates as the only measurement here. If you get an impression there, it's at the top of the page before you scroll down, so call that below the fold, or above the fold. That's still an impression. Someone's probably glanced over that, so it's not a bad branding tool either, depending on how you use it and what your intentions are. But then they can drop as low as 0.1%. But in any case, that is 1% of the audience going through that search term, clicking through to your website. So it's a very, very effective tool. It operates through what's called a real-time bidding system across AdWords and various platforms. And basically that means you set your bid at $10 a click, $5 a click, depending on what it estimates the cost at. And then you go for gold there. If it's not working, you up your bids or you change your keywords and a million different things. Andrew's got, we can go through some of the interface later. But yeah, it's pretty easy to use. It's set up for small businesses to run through. That's how Google and all the other guys make their money off search. So, it is an effective tool. So, Big Brother, I put this slide in here because it goes back to this Datalicious idea. So I'm kind of scanning over it a bit. If I've missed anything or you have another question, jump on Twitter and just hashtag #IGetDigital and we'll be able to answer it because we are flying pretty quickly. But the Big Brother knows all, and I alluded this to a second ago, with mobile being one of the most important things for websites these days. 40% of search volume is now conducted on smartphones, and this is huge for search engines. And the ones that are smart enough to tailor search results to device, location, and consumer intent. So it's getting pretty scary now. There's a lot of data involved in that. They will ultimately win the game. But having said that, the search engine's already playing. They're already working towards, providing completely different results for different times of the day, different locations, for the exact same search term. So with ample amounts of data being collected on everyone and everything, it's no surprise that a search query done on your computer at work during lunchtime versus the same search query done in the middle of the city of an evening will yield completely different results. And the reason for that is because your mindset's different. You don't particularly care for a bar that's in, I don't know, say Surrey Hills if you're in North Sydney. It's a 40-minute trip through the city. You're with your friends already. You just want to go to a bar a block or two away. So search engines and mobile devices, it's tracking your geolocation. You've been browsing through your Chrome browser before, or your Safari, and that's all being tracked. It's all being collected in the back end. And then you search the same thing in the evening. Google wants to give you the most relevant ad at that time in order for you to click on it and go through to that person's website. because a click to them is money in the bank. It's also a conversion or greater chance for that advertiser to get a conversion, so it's good for you, it's good for them, it's good for everyone. But data's driving all that, and yeah, they know everything. So the search engines, are trying to enhance the user experience and continue to position their products as a utility. So I come back to this idea of it being a utility. If you can plant your business or your product, that being a search engine, in the day-to-day life of people, then you really are doing a great job. And it's a utility as opposed to a multinational evil conglomerate, which when I tell my friends the amount of data that online players are collecting on you, they sort of think, oh, that's so bad, it's going to turn out like Terminator. Well, no, it's not really. Well, hopefully not in my lifetime, but it's so that they can serve you these ads better and tailor it to you and give you the most relevant information at the right times. This whole zero moment of truth thing comes back into play here, and is really at the heart of everything that Google does now. So in terms of their search engine, so that's really important there. So optimize your website for the mobile experience is absolutely fundamental to any website in achieving a good search ranking. So where do you start? There's a lot of information then, there's a lot of variables going on. The first thing that I do if I get a new client or doing some research for a client is I start by opening Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever it is has the majority search volume in your market. Might be Bing in the US, I'm not sure, or Yahoo in Europe, who knows, and search for your business. Type it in, Joe Blogs Used Cars, see what comes to the top. If it's your business, fantastic. If it's someone else's business, go onto that website and have a look at what they're doing. Are they tracking it? Is their website clean? Is their content tailoring some obvious keywords? Take that URL and put it in your keyword website tools, whether it be, I've got some in the end. So once you've done that, have a good look at everything, then search for the service or product that you're offering. Obviously, don't use the name of your business here because it will skew your results, but just type in used cars Bathurst, or used cars whatever. And see what appears at the top. It might be aggregators. So in that instance, if you type that in, you get car sales or Gumtree popping up. And here, if we go back to our SWOT analysis, the threats are greater than that of our direct car dealerships. It's now those that facilitate the car dealerships. And if we go back to our credit card example, you've got the credit card comparison site. So you can start to see then also a wider spectrum of who your competitors are. And then evaluate all these results like I just mentioned a second ago. Do they have blog posts? What's the information like? Is their site tagged? If it is, they're more than likely optimizing it. It's time to play ball. There's a useful Chrome plugin called Ghostery, Ghostery. You couple of clicks and it's stored on your browser, and every website you go to, it will pop up with a little notification. It's not too annoying. It's worthwhile, especially if you're trying to optimize your website, and it'll tell you what they're using to track that website, whether it be DoubleClick or Google or millions of the other Atlas or whatever. You can see if their website's firing different tracking tags, and if there are a lot of tracking tags being fired, then you know they're on top of that game, and you know you need to address it in order to knock them off that #1 spot. So just really simple thing to do. Yes, they are tracking. No, they're not. Okay, they're not, then they're going to be an easy win to take off that throne. If they are, then I'm going to have to work a lot harder. The fourth one would be signing up to AdWords. It's where you manage your SEM from. It's where you can do keyword analysis. You can run your display banners out of there. You can create cookie pools, and cookie pools are used to retarget people. So say you're an e-commerce shop with, you just sell some t-shirts or whatever. Someone gets all the way to the checkout and they don't click buy. You can then set a cookie pool from that stage, and you can just hit them with banners. Hey, come back, buy our product, buy our product. And in terms of the fashion industry, that's from a consumer perspective, it can be, well, I mean, I get retargeted all the time from ASOS and different things, and it's something that I just accept now. Yeah, they're following me. Whether or not I decide to click that is up to me, but I'm more likely to click it with it being there than if I'm not. And then AdWords, Google owns AdWords, it owns YouTube. You can also run your YouTube advertisement out there. And ultimately, you're just collecting amples and amples of data. You can use that data to inform many business decisions, whether that be who your audience are. Maybe there's a segment that you didn't realize existed that's a really big opportunity offline. Lots of different things you can do with the data. So number 5 relates back to our Ghostery in that you tag your site. We talked about reporting before. You can't optimize without information. and a really useful one. Again, you know, the theme of the presentation for me so far has been Google, but it's because they've got products for everything, and they work relatively well together. So Google Analytics is just a floodlight tag you can put on your website, and it will track where your traffic's coming from, so whether that be socials or search, or they're just going straight to URL, and then where they're going after. So again, another good opportunity to identify, if we go back to our search funnel, who that comparison phase, who they're looking at. Maybe it's old mate up the road, or it's someone in Sydney. They're open to that, going that distance to travel to Sydney, and then that's a whole other new competitive set you haven't realised. So Google Analytics is really great for that. It's not without its flaws though, so just make sure you're persistent, you keep at it, and you spend the time to learn how to use it, or you consult with someone that knows. And then number 6, keep an open mind. Remember, search rankings are a privilege. Don't just think you're going to get in there and win straight away. You're going to have to try some different things and, yeah, progress as you go. So that's really important. So that would be my tips for where to start, some SEO tips and things like that. Appendix of useful sites here. I think this gets sent out, does it? Or you can access this presentation later. Yep. So just jump on those links. SEMrush, SEO book, and WordStream are all really great. HubSpot's one that I don't necessarily use, but I get a lot of direct marketing about it, and I've had some really good feedback about that. If you're already using that for your business, so it's a good opportunity to build your keyword list through that. Your keyword list is going back to the search queries you talked earlier, just to clarify. Tracking tools, Google AdWords, Google Analytics, you also got Bing ads, you got DoubleClick, you got a lot of different things there. So a quick search of that will find that for you. And then just a couple of quick sites of interest that I follow that I think are really useful. SEO Mark is a search blogger with great tips and content, well worth following. He's out of the UK. I check that probably once a day to see if he's got anything really interesting to post, and I'll give that some thought and consideration. Then Loves Data is an Australian company. They're at the forefront of digital marketing, in my opinion, and a really great blog resource is available on their website. So yeah, that really covers off most of what it is I wanted to talk about today. There's a lot more. I could have spent, you know, the whole 5-course session talking about search, but we don't have that kind of time. So I'll throw it back to Andrew Mashman here, and then yeah, thanks for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring. Thanks.
Thanks very much, James. That was really great. There's so much stuff happening there, and as you said, we could spend hours and hours and weeks on this. I think probably the context for most people doing this course is there's a lot of, you know, either entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who want to, you know, do something for themselves around SEO and SEM, and you have to start somewhere. And one of the things that James talked about with me just before we started was the use of WordPress and some of the plugin tools for that to at least get a start on some of your SEO stuff. And I'll talk about that a little bit further because I've got some examples of material that, in my case, for my website, it's made a pretty big difference. It's interesting, just while James has been talking, I've just been looking on Google and Bing and doing some search comparisons there around the I Get Digital hashtag, and interestingly, the I Get Digital hashtag didn't exist till last week, and we've generated quite a lot of material about it. There's about 3 pages of results on Google, but even in images, people who are involved in the course and who have been using the hashtag have got their images up to the top of that on images. So you can see, you know, our James and mine and Alicia's SADs, but I have to give a call out to Carissa Ramirez because I'm not sure where she is, but she's on the course, I know, and she's been leveraging the I Get Digital hashtag as well, and she's got more results in that space than we have. So the whole exciting part about this, you know, digital marketing space is that you really have to try and do things and leverage content, and the content as king thing is really, really important. I'm going to talk more about that as we head into next week. So more back on track for material that I'm going to talk about tonight, or as part of the outline tonight, was about computers, tablets, mobiles, and wearables. And I'm sure that most people are familiar with computers, and you've evolved, maybe with me, through a whole range of different computers in size and space and capability. And definitely there's generations now who do everything off their mobile phones. They go, oh, what would I need a computer for? I can actually do it off my maybe larger screen mobile phone, or definitely my tablet device, which I've got with my mobile as well. So again, knowing who your target market is helps us understand what's going on with different devices. The tablet market has actually plateaued. So IDC, who does shipment data on all sorts of electronic devices, has highlighted that the tablet market appears to have maybe entered a more of a maturity phase, I suppose, in terms of shipments. And in the opposite side to that, wearables, and particularly the Apple Watch, has hit a massive growth phase. And so Apple's gone from being off the shipment radar to being the second biggest player behind Fitbit just in the last quarter as well. So a couple of things on this graphic here which I just wanted to point out, I suppose, is that wearables is not just about watches, and wearables are going to appear all over your body, and they're going to be linked to, and you become part of the Internet of Things in many ways, I suppose, but they'll be providing you information, or they'll be feeding information back to other people who want to know information about you from a medical perspective, from a sports perspective, from a range of things. And the graphic there highlights watches, Google Glass, jewelry, ornaments, bracelets, shoes, etc., which probably most people are aware of already, but they're also going to be embedding devices within clothes to maybe do heart rate monitoring, to measure sugar levels in your body and do a range of different things like that. So the sky's the limit in terms of wearables, and I think particularly for this course in 2015, if we fail to talk about wearables, then we'd be kind of remiss, because they're going to become the next big thing. But a couple of things about wearables particularly, there's massive potential here, and one of the slides we looked at back in week 1, I think, talked about a $13 billion industry. One of the big research houses had come up with that particular number, but it is very much the introduction stage. So the people who are getting involved in wearables are doing it for reasons which may not attribute to what people will get involved in wearables down the track for. There is no killer app, and certainly for probably smartphones, it might have been about gaming, or there's been a number of apps which have been the things that people go, man, I'm getting that thing because it does that particular application for me, it does that particular job for me. There is no, at this particular point in time that I'm aware of, that could change literally tomorrow, but a killer app for wearable-based devices. Certainly people who have got Fitbits, the app that runs and measures their body and their paces and syncs with their phone and gives them menu and food things, that has been really, really big, but it's been particularly targeted at a more niche group of people who are into fitness and health and food in a kind of a holistic way. So there'll be something bigger than that comes along. Often it has been around games, but we'll wait and see what happens there as well. As mentioned, medical use of wearables might be a massive thing, and so organisations from Diabetes Australia, possibly from the Heart Foundation, are looking at how do we do things around wearables which can feed information. And for digital marketers, that either in that information feed, and there might be issues of privacy with that, there may not be issues of privacy with that opt-in to share your best personal best track run and those kind of things, is going to provide opportunities for digital marketers to tap into that information and share that information, or to provide products which help you do a better PB around a running thing, or a better range of foods which meet your dietary requirements and your exercise routine even better. So these are all really exciting things which you need to be thinking about now, so you can work out how can we get involved in those sort of things. And if you think that your business has got some kind of app-based opportunity, then you should be probably testing it at a personal level at this stage. One of the articles which I tweeted and read last week was about wearables particularly becoming important in the B2B setting in the workplace, where people might use their watch device or other wearable digitally connected, internet connected devices to for workplace safety, for security access to locations, for measuring uptime and productivity, a whole heap of things like that. So we're likely to see wearables pop up in all sorts of different places as well. The minute we've got wearable devices happening, then we've got new timing opportunities. And it might be that you're going for your run at 6:15 in the morning around the bay in Sydney, and we could bring you some device, or we could book you in for an appointment post that at the other end of the park you're running around, those kind of things. So GPS-based, timing-based, a range of things, and the immediacy thing, which I love James's zero moment of truth thing. Everybody, doesn't matter if you're young or old, who doesn't want it now? Like, you want it now. So wearables are going to bring immediacy to a new space, and that's going to be a really exciting aspect of digital marketing as well. A couple of things there, just some IDC reports here. You see here Q2 for 2015. Apple didn't exist in Q1, and Fitbit was the biggest player in end of 14, early 15. Apple has just taken a bigger chunk and is likely to become the biggest single player in the wearables market in the next short period of time as well. Just some numbers on the left side of the screen there. Apple shipped 3.6 million units of its wearable device on the back of, I think quarter four last year they shipped 76 million iPhone 6s or something like that. Apple is moving some serious volume and people like that. And I noticed tonight when I was on YouTube that an Apple ad popped up in that location talking about how I can use Apple in my life and how I should have a wearable device from them as well. So, you know, Apple launches products using a lot of PR and online chat and those kind of things. When they start advertising and they start spending money on that, they expect even bigger results from that. So they're advertising now on YouTube, and so you expect that they've got, you know, the initial bugs sorted out, they've got the application working right, they can ship increasing numbers, and they're looking for people to adopt those particular devices. So again, if you're an art gallery or you've got an app that's going to be used at a local government level, how is it going to play out on a wearable kind of device? What could possibly work there that could give you competitive advantage over some of your other devices as well? A couple other things which I picked up this week on wearables about what people would like from their wearables, and clearly it's not about what time is it, because everybody in their hand and no further away than that already has a timing device in their mobile phone, but sensors, comfort, some increased computing power, some design issues, more discreet, which is interesting, are things that people are looking in wearable devices. So if you can then build a wearable device into clothing, which helps people maybe exercise or diet or know about their blood sugar levels, then these are opportunities for digital marketers to be involved in that. And so you might be doing a joint venture with Lorna Jane, which is an Australian sports brand, particularly targeted at women, to provide a particular range of products or services or interactivity with their devices to get your new app product service off the ground. All really exciting stuff. This just leads to this slide here, and on the right side of the screen we've got the white block there, which was done by a report that came out in the end of 2013, so it's, you know, 18 months old or so now. And so that's 2013, probably 2.5 years before that, tablets were just babies and there was hardly any time spent on that, and certainly about 6 years before 2013 there was next to nothing going on the smartphone front. So what we're seeing there for marketers particularly, and definitely for advertisers, is that there's been a fragmentation of time that people spend on any one device. And certainly a report I read last year showed that TV has become the new listening medium rather than a visual medium. So people are multitasking on other devices while the TV is playing in the background. And so if you want to do a TV ad, then, you know, good luck with that, and good luck at getting massive cut through. And if you're going to do that, you need to work very hard to get those things happening. And we'll talk more about advertising as we move on. I've added the picture of the wearables on the end of that. Wearables essentially don't exist as of the start of this year. They're, you know, shipped 3, 4, maybe 10, 20 million devices in the world as of now this year. Certainly by this time next year you'll be looking back, or you'll be looking at your wrist at your wearable, or you'll be checking some jewelry you're wearing with your wearable in it and going, oh, where are we up to at the moment? And I noticed that in Australia certainly September is Steptember, and I'm not sure which charity's behind it, but it's about making people move more, and some people are using their Fitbit and their Garmin-based wearable devices to complete their Steptember activities. So nice and current, moving right along as we go as well. So one of the last areas tonight we're going to talk about is the advertising opportunity, and I've put advertising in as an opportunity because advertising has got a bit of a bad rap in many ways, but advertising is still a massively powerful way to communicate to audiences. Certainly though, in the digital environment, you have to think about a far more narrow cast audience than you would have in a broadcast environment, which has been traditionally TV, radio, outdoor, newsprint. And you know, you might say that newsprint is a dying medium, and there's no question about it. That is definitely true. But there is, in Australia anyhow, there's at least one day of the year when you can reach out to the mums and dads of high school students when their Year 12 results come out, and you can get a massive impact from that. So my recommendation around advertising, digital or otherwise, is that you choose your time and your place, and you choose what you're going to say and what messages and what actions you want to have happen from that, and you drive it to make it happen. So in the digital space, you've got a couple of things going on there which are bringing advertising to a new space and you know, making it still a viable mechanism for marketers to reach consumers to get them to drive action. Traditionally, advertising has been what we call interruptive, as most ads are. And strangely enough, and I'm a bit of a Pandora user, and when I got onto that probably 2 years ago, I went, oh my gosh, how long has this been going on for? This is my favourite mix of music. And then the next one is my favourite mix of music as well. And I'm actually quite happy for them to stop that music for a period of time which is what they're doing currently, and they're making me absorb an advertiser's space. I could pay a premium price and avoid all advertising, but actually it's worked quite well for me. And I noticed the car companies are quite busy on Pandora, and they're obviously reaching out. Pandora has quite a bit of information about me as a consumer. They probably can infer quite a bit of information from me about the mix of music that I listen to, maybe about demographics, childhood, which bands I like, a range of things like that. And then I've seen Mazda, Jeep, and definitely Ford aligning content to that and playing those ads to me on screen. I definitely saw one which I didn't like, and I didn't manage to get a snip of that earlier this week, but it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken ad sitting on the Pandora screen, which I really didn't like at all. And luckily I don't look at the Pandora screen all day. But the example on the screen there is, thank you for completing this activity from our sponsor. So it's not an advertiser. That softens up this person as, instead of them being an advertiser, they're now a sponsor. They're a facilitator of free music for me. And that again is another way to engage me as a user of their advertising. And I don't have to do that activity for an extended period of time. I've got 4 hours of free stuff going on, which is music, which is more what I'm interested in using Pandora for. The other space, which has kind of been pioneered a little bit by Air New Zealand over probably maybe 6 or 7 years or so now, is what they call non-interruptive. And Air New Zealand sees themselves as being a non-interruptive specialist. Probably more recently, people I would think are using the word native advertising now as a way that, I suppose, in many ways, advertising agencies are getting into the space of kind of non-interruptive advertising, where it's not quite clear, is the message being played or not, because the DJ is doing a live read, because they're endorsing a product they used at a party last week, and all of those kind of things. But non-interruptive is kind of good in many ways. There's probably some ethical regions around some of it that you may or may not like, but you can have a think about that. But particularly the content that Air New Zealand does do, and the example on the screen is called Happy Hour. You know, it's just 500,000 views, but again, that's on the back of the All Blacks thing we looked at the other week, which is around 3 million views now. It's back on the back of their naked body painting thing, which is 6 million views. It's on the back of their Hobbit safety briefing, which is 10 million views. So Air New Zealand has got a massive amount of content happening, which is all about, in the case of the one you can see there, is about the seating on their planes, which is something that Air New Zealand does very specifically and specially. And so it's driving business to them, and so they've got particular goals around it, and they make that happen. The big thing which James pointed to is that mobile is all the go now. There's more and more people carrying mobile devices, either complete smartphones or feature-enabled phones, and if you're going to deliver content to that space in terms of an advert, it's got to work exactly in that space. And so we'll have a bit more of a think about that as we go through. A good example here of bad advertising in my book, and this would be, someone's just booked it, they thought it was a good idea, and I came across this digital trends site through searching for stuff going around digital trends for this course, which is great. Digital trends pops up, think that's really good. Wearable reviews, excellent indeed. And you can see what happens on there is the traditional kind of banner ad happens across the top of the screen here. And a couple of things that jump out at me, because I'm viewing this ad from in Australia. It was the morning. Yes, it's the winter time here, but this biggest audience of this digitaltrends.com site would be a US-based audience, and they're advertising winter pants in the middle or the end of summer for a US-based audience, and I just didn't think that was particularly appropriate. It's a static ad. It sits there. Nothing happens with it. You can click on it if you want to. The Banggood website, maybe not as credible as you'd like as well. So I'm guessing that their performance of an ad like that particularly is kind of low. The other thing that this website does, which was also annoying, was that they had an auto-roll video which popped up on the first opening of this website with an unworkable skip. I could skip in 15 seconds, but it was a 15-second commercial that ran for me there. And again, I was an Australian-based citizen looking at that particular thing, which I couldn't avoid. It had very little relevance, and so relevance is a really critical thing in the advertising space for audiences, so you need to think about that as well. Now, YouTube knows who I am when I go there, so this is an example of YouTube, and YouTube has got a range of different things going on there, and when you see the list of things that are recommended here, these could be a combination of both trending or paid, and you'll notice that we talked about this the other week where you've got the verified signal, which is in the middle of the screen there, then that says that that's likely to have been promoted to that space too, like It Will Go, Subway promoted theirs on Twitter. Up the top, we've got Toyota, Cooler Creative. There was a bit of movement associated with this, and there's the option to not Dodgy Brothers site location, but the button to click through to go through to those as well, and all viewed from the point of the child. So it's going to be about fun and engaging, and probably people who are going to YouTube, and certainly I do, I don't go there to get too serious, I go there for fun and engaging. And so Toyota and their ad agency have capitalized on this, and plus I have the opportunity up the top of the screen there to close that particular ad out. So just an example there of how that's playing out: quality execution, relevant execution, and probably far more clickable than the previous example that we used in that space as well. Now this is just a shot from Yahoo, and maybe James is still sitting here, you could tell me how much search Yahoo does in the world or in Australia, I'm not sure about that, but Google is doing the bulk of the world's search. It's over 90% as far as I could tell, but Yahoo exists, and this is the third Yahoo screenshot I had to grab because first of all, we had, you know, bad headline stories popping up into the picture graphic here, so I didn't think that was palatable for everyone, so we moved that one. My second grab had a lot of stuff from the Video Music Awards, which was largely about Miley Cyrus, and you can infer your own kind of bits and pieces from that. And so I finally grabbed this third screen. And if you contrast this screen grab with a Google screen grab, it's a lot busier. The stories are plaguing your efforts to search for content and interrupting that. So Yahoo 7, in particularly in Yahoo, is all about interruption rather than non-interruptive. I suppose the clever part about this, though, is the Nespresso double ad spacing, where it's an interactive ad. You could choose colors, and that moves with the top one as well, and it's in two positions on the screen. This would enhance the click-through capability. But again, unless you're a massive Channel 7 watcher for Australia, if you like, you know, kind of seedy stories, then it's likely that Yahoo is not bringing you, you know, your search capability as it would be. So as much as it might cost to advertise on Yahoo, unless your audience is in this space and love this material, again, it's a place that you would think about more carefully before you dived into that space as well. Now, because I'm into motor vehicles, and James mentioned this a little while ago as well, that motor vehicles are, you know, they're a big spending space in terms of advertising and definitely in digital marketing as well. And this is on YouTube, so search for Hyundai actually, because I wanted that on purpose. But you can see here the stylish Nissan Pathfinder particularly and the Mini Cooper Clubman have bought the ad spaces at the top of that page. And that's a great place for them to be at the end of the day, because while I'm looking for a Hyundai, I might possibly think that Mini and Nissan are viable alternatives for that. And so they've done some stuff around their execution there to make that work out. Interesting, they're probably TV commercials, you get the 31-second mark there, and they're being played in this space here. I can see the Mini one hasn't had that many views, and Nissan one's obviously far more interesting with quite a number of more views. But in this case here, I was after Hyundai particularly, and so I'm looking down to see what Hyundai is up to, and I see Hyundai, a message from space. What's that one about? And I can see, wow, 69 million, nearly 70 million views from that. So I'm enticed based on that. And for Hyundai, this is not necessarily an advertisement, but it's more of a sponsorship, which is driving traction to their call to action for their cars. Somewhat random on this page here is the ad on the right-hand side of the screen there for Pearson. Now, they're an academic tech supplier, and I can tell you why that popped up there is because I'm logged in probably from a Charles Sturt University computer, but that ad particularly is completely out of context, and as an academic, if I want a textbook, I ring my rep, or sorry, I don't ring her, I email her, and she sends me stuff that I need. So Pearson is playing in this space because I'm using a Charles Sturt computer, but it's a non-interactive and in fact plainly uninteractive and in fact out of context ad for me, so no action taken on that one, and I'm doubting that their click-through rate or their calls to action on that would be doing anything at all at that space. But I am very much more interested in the 69 million view Hyundai one too, and so this is interesting for Hyundai's point of view, and I'm guessing that it's never been done before, and in fact from a an advertising / sponsorship point of view, they probably got into it on quite a low cost basis because it's never been done before, and nobody's thought about linking a girl and her dad who's actually up in the space station together and creating some content this way. Hyundai, from a return on investment point of view, they would say, hey, wow, imagine if we could engage 70 million people in our cars, what is that worth to us? And that would give them some kind of budget amount to do this. And what's been created here is they've got a guy who's in the space station, he's got a daughter, she's in Houston, Texas, and she writes him a message, and you should watch this video, it's worth a watch as well, and see if we can get it to $70 million views. They use Hyundai cars to write a message on a big salt flat, which is I love you daddy, whatever it was, something like that. It's a nice heartfelt message. It's captured in high quality production video, so it's quite good, which works certainly for Hyundai, because if they did the grainy, crafty thing we talked about last week, people might think their cars are a little bit, crappy like that as well. And then particularly I'm interested in this because Hyundai then turns this into more clicks, because you get to watch another video which is about the behind the scenes. How do we get to this point? How do we make this one? And the second one is how do you write your own message? So nice interactive material there, coming off a sponsorship rather than an advertisement, to drive Hyundai probably up the ranks of preferred cars in the US market and certainly in the Australian market as well. So excellent. We're going to have a look at a couple of things there to see what's going on in terms of advertising. I'm going to break out to my Google Chrome in a second, just to show you how LinkedIn, and have a quick look at Google AdWords to work in terms of advertising. Now, I'd be interested to know, and please tweet or put it in the chat box tonight, if anybody's seen this ad on the right-hand side of the screen there, where I get digital, start digital, find your customers, choose tools, and go. Need help? Ask us. And this is an ad that I've particularly put on LinkedIn, aimed at a audience which has got to involve, you have to have some kind of relationship to Charles Sturt University or IT Masters, and many of you in the group tonight will have that. And so I'm hopefully, in my experiment here about advertising, I've been able to reach out to some of you with this ad. I know when we went to air tonight, and it only was launched live, approved by LinkedIn earlier today, there had been no particular clicks on it. But we're going to look at the logic behind that and my spend to date on that. And I'm really hoping that somebody has actually seen it. So that'll prove that this works for us. In the digital environment, the advertising can be massively targeted now in ways that in your traditional analog environment you couldn't target audiences so clearly. And the cool thing about this also is you can do it from your own kind of business space. As smaller businesses you might be, you can dig into this to make that happen. And this is just the front page of the LinkedIn Get Started. And I'm just going to flick out to the new one there as well. I'm going to Google there as well. So hopefully, can you just check, James, that you can see this screen as well now. So now we're just on the LinkedIn page, and I'm just going to go to manage your ads. You'll notice that this is a promo for LinkedIn as well, but 345 million people worldwide, 5.5 million high-tech managers, 7.9 million decision makers. These are the kind of reach that I've got in this space here as well. Let me just try and get in here. I'm just going to try and do that one. It'll happen quickly because it's logged me out just a little bit earlier. Now we're into my campaign, which is running, and earlier tonight I'd spent around $3.47, so it's launched some more money. You can see the big bucks I'm investing into this course here as well. But you can, down the bottom of the page here, we can see the I Get Digital ad. You can see it's going on. Currently, LinkedIn has delivered 1,611 impressions. There's been 0 clicks at this point. I'll have a look at that one. The actual average click-through rate would come off both impressions versus the clicks. Total social actions, so there's been no click-through to my website, there's been no click-throughs or endorsements. So this is not looking particularly good for me at the moment, but maybe by tomorrow morning when it's been up there a little bit longer, then we could see a bit more action. So at the moment I've paid around about $2.76 per 1,000 exposures, which is good, and I've spent a total of $4.40 in the last period as well. Just so you can see, I'm just going to go up to the metric here. It says clicks. I'm going to look here on impressions, because that's what I'm really interested in, because I'm paying this on impressions rather than on anything else. And at the moment we can see this is where our 1,600 impressions sitting here on the 1st of September. The data here will be delayed a little bit as well, so we can tomorrow there'll be more data, and so if there's a massive swing by next week, I'll show you what's going on there as well. So that's that particular aspect of that also, and then I can also go here to demographics. And given that there's been no clicks, then there's no data to show at this particular moment, but when it does start happening, I'll get material on the job function of the people who clicked, job titles, locations, whereabouts in the world, maybe the companies that they're from, just depending on whether that was part of it as well, and job seniority, which if I want to reach decision makers particularly, then that could be an important part of that as well. I'm just going to click open this here, and I should be able to get back to our target audiences here. I can't see those right this second. Oh, here we go, audience. So I'm just clicking on the audience tab up the top here, and these are some of the choices you get with LinkedIn. There's a lot more, but this has just been a quick demonstration for you guys particularly. And I could have, I've chosen some location-based stuff. I could choose the whole world, but I've chosen North America, Oceania, which includes Australia, and Asia, because from what I can understand, most people are in that space as well. I've also targeted companies, and this will be people who've got some sort of endorsement, and there's on LinkedIn there's an IT Masters, a couple of groups around IT Masters, so that should fix that out, and Charles University. So I've really narrowed it by that. I could get rid of those and broaden the audience, and you can see up on the right side of the screen here we've got currently an audience of around 2,000 plus members, and that kind of works for this very narrow cast kind of piece as well. If I wanted to get into more details, I could choose member skills, for example. If I knew they'd all graduated from Oregon State University, for example, I could choose that as well. And if I wanted to do something about gender or age, then if I click on those things as well, then I could get those things up. And I've just clicked on age, and I can see some age groups in that space there as well. I don't want to include that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is and sit there. And again, I'll get your feedback on how that's going and whether anybody's seen it or not, which will prove my point about whether advertising is good value or otherwise. And certainly in my own example, we did do, for my business, some advertising on LinkedIn a little earlier in the year, and it didn't really result in much in terms of action that we needed to go to. So this next particular slide that I'm looking at on the screen there now is Google AdWords. And Google AdWords is, I'll just flick screens there for a second, let me just get that one back for you. Google AdWords is a massively powerful tool. You know, if you want to advertise and Google can help you with it, I've got to say you've got to do it, because Google is the master of information and understanding and can get you results. There's no question about that too. The other thing from my point of view that Google is quite helpful with tutorials and helping you understand what's going on with your advertising and why it's working and why it's not working. And the dashboards they give you, which is like this particular one, which we can see on the screen now, is helping people do better advertising on Google. So earlier in the year, Liberated Vision, which is my business, ran some advertising on Google, and I did stop it because we're getting some exposure. It was actually helping our SEO a little bit, but we couldn't compete with the people who were paying top dollar in the ad spaces we're looking for. And if you see the words over here, marketing short courses, and you imagine that as somebody searching on marketing short courses, and you can do that, and you'll see that it comes up quite quickly. There's a lot of competition in this area for Australia, Sydney University, SEEK, Monash University. There's some big players in this space. And the actual top paid ad space was worth in March around $42 per click. And for me, being a very small business, that's a massive amount of money. So I really had to kind of sit with, if I wanted to play in the marketing short course space, a much smaller budget and very much few impressions, and then at the end of the day, very few click-throughs on the basis of that as well. But there's a couple of things about this which are important to think about. So the list that you can see in front of you there is the keywords, and from research that I have done and knew about marketing short courses, then people did search on these kind of things. You'll see in the list here variations on course and courses, in marketing, for marketing, on marketing, all of these things. So these are all the keywords. And one of the bits of advice that some people will give you is they go, oh, use as many keywords as you like. But what happens when you use more and more keywords is you thin out, like you water down your spend, and you're trying to be in too many places. So one of my recommendations around keywords is to hone in on keywords that make a difference to your target audience, and you go out and do some research on your target audience, find out what do they search on. ask them what they do, watch them, get them to search in front of you and watch what they do around your particular business problem that you've got. Use that to do it. The other thing that's exciting about this part and part of AdWords is that you can have negative keywords as well. And the things that we dropped out of here, and particularly was important to me because I do a range of short courses, and they are short courses. They go for a day or two, but universities essentially don't offer short courses. They're degrees, they're master's degrees, they take years to finish and complete. So in terms of, we've added some lists of negative keywords here, which includes university and universities, colleges and college, for example. And what happens when somebody goes marketing short courses university, then they don't waste my ad spend by popping me up in that space because I know they're looking for something else. So that's just a really quick insight into the dashboard of behind Google. If any of the small businesses listening tonight, I suggest that you have a look at that and have a look to see how that maybe impacts your business or potentially could impact your business. The story which I'm going to tell you about my business was that as much as we spent on Google AdWords, there were some fundamental problems in SEO for my website which had to be fixed first. And so we've gone on to fix those, and I'll just jump back to the other screen now. That's that one there, sorry about that. Jump back to the other screen now and go to the next slide there. Where we've done a lot of SEO work, and next week's guest speaker, who is Rich Evans, his business is doing the SEO work for me, and we've gone from being on page 4 or 5 of Google around short marketing courses to being up now, and you can see my website down towards the bottom of the pages there as well, but it's on the bottom of that particular list. And so I haven't spent as much money on SEO yet as I had spent on advertising, but I've lifted myself from the kind of doldrums of the back pages of Google, which nobody is looking at, up to at least page 1 now in terms of that. I'm definitely probably, based on this and James's point before, I'm below the fold still, but I'm working to get that up. And once I get that SEO up and I start to, if I started to advertise as well, then suddenly you get that double whammy hit of SEO and SEM starting to really fire up for your business as well. So there you go, that's just a bit of a thing, the Liberated Vision thing, top ad space that I was trying to compete against. So up the top there at the moment, if I was to click on Strata, and certainly CSU's popped into that space as well as an ad space, that could cost them up to $42 if I clicked onto that. And for a business, you know, that could be, it may be cheap, it may be a high cost of acquisition to get that click. Certainly one of the things that Google's working on is cost of conversion, and you're likely to see stuff coming up in months and years where instead of paying for an impression or an exposure or even a click, Google will charge you probably a much higher price when you actually get a conversion. So somebody in your business, a shopper, a buyer, and again, using Google systems, you'll be bidding for that to make that happen. So search engine marketing, where you pay for ad spaces to get there, and search engine optimization probably have to be used hand in hand to make things work out for you. So hopefully that has been a really good insight tonight on SEO and SEM, some advertising, and the wearables thing particularly, which I think is going to have a massive impact in digital. Next week we're getting further in depth into the tools, and we've got guest speaker Rich Evans coming along as well. I suspect James and Alicia will be available online next week as well, diving in on the conversations you're having. And certainly if you've got any particular questions that we should address, then tweet those with that hashtag and we'll have a look at it. Just to wrap up tonight, homework for next week, this is helping your digital marketing plan, is start on a short list of tools that will work with your target audience. And so work out, go and ask some of your target audience members, whoever they might be, what's going on in their digital lives, particularly what tools do they use, which tools don't they use, do they love artworks, and you know, Pinterest is really working out for them, they love their Instagram tool, they're Snapchatting their friends and sharing short videos via Vine possibly. Find out what those things are and start making that list and start filling that grid in about the tools that might work. For each tool that you choose, you need to have some objectives. What will this tool do for me? So what will SEO do for me? And if it's going to do nothing for you, stop spending your money on it and stop doing it. If you're going to do some advertising and it's going to get conversion rates and that makes sense to you financially and for the goals of the business, then you make it happen. Make sure this happens. So work out what goals you want, how's it going to happen, when's it going to do, and start work on that grid to make that happen. And another thing for many businesses, who's going to do this? And if you are the small business proprietor, you're wearing 25 different hats, then your digital marketing plan is likely to be much simplified, because you can't be everything to everybody. You need to do a couple of things, do it really well, and do the things that are going to work out for your particular business, and you know, kind of rock the world in terms of making it happen. So excellent. What we'll do now is I'm going to wrap the recording up. So thanks for all those guys who've been listening and following us tonight online.